What's up? We got Brian from A Day Without Love joining us here on Beyond the Static. What is up, my dude?
Doing well, doing well. I'm glad to be here. How's it going?
Never been better. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and start out with introductions. Tell the world about yourself. What you think that we all need to know.
Certainly. My project's called A Day Without Love. I'm a musician. I also run a podcast too called Dreams Not Memes. It's currently on a brief hiatus. And I've been touring and writing. I've been touring for about 5 years and writing for about 9 years. And I have a new song coming out this week called DIY or Die. And it's about the artist's decision to always choose between staying independent or going corporate for one of the big majors, and how do they really feel about that in their life as an artist. So,
Yeah, dude. So I was listening to the song, and
mhm.
and I was listening to show friends and some other stuff, and it's like, what I realized about you is like you have this like simplicity of lyrics where you're just like, no, this is the story. Like, I'm not like the line, like, I sing in houses, you sing for corporate, and then like everywhere I go I make friends. Like,
Mhm.
what made you go in that direction of like, just like, I'm just saying the story and I'm not really trying to like butter it up, I guess, for lack of a better.
Certainly. I think it came from two perspectives. One, I realized that when I wrote lyrics in abstract or like wrote songs that just had a lot of words, it didn't catch people's as much like attention as much. And something that I do want to do is tell a story but make it accessible. So I thought if I write simplistically, I'm going to be more accessible. That was the first reason. And then the other thing is like for this record that I have coming out next year, it was originally a record that was designed to be part of a documentary called Safe and Sound, which is all about touring and things like that. And then I decided, well, what if I created a soundtrack to a touring musician's life as opposed to like it for the documentary? And I said, and not only that, what if that soundtrack or that record was like an everyday alt person's guideline to keep going? And I can't make that complex. I have to make it simple. So I thought, sonically it's going to be different, but lyrically it has to be accessible no matter what the song. So yeah, that was my big reason for that.
That makes sense. That's an interesting concept. Like the soundtrack to a touring musician's life. So you recently got off tour. I remember
Yep.
remember that. What does a normal tour look like for you? Or what was this tour like? Any like interesting tour anecdotes?
Oh yeah. So like a normal tour for me is typically, anywhere between 4 to 50, and I'll travel typically in a focused region. Like I might do a New England tour and I'll be like 4 or 5 days there, or I'll do a Southern tour. Like I'm only in the South for this tour. But this tour was different because I was in multiple regions. Like for a week, I was in the South, and then I was in the Delta South, then I was in Southwest, and then I'm in, the West Coast, and then I'm in the Mountain Range, I'm in the Northwest, and then I'm in the middle. Like, so that was like very different for me, and was also different for me because I was with like my significant other who also was my bandmate, so like there was definitely things that we had to like relearn and rediscover about each other. Um, but I could definitely say each tour I set different expectations for myself, whether that be personally, whether that be financially, or whether that be socially. So like, you know, I don't just do that for tours, I do that for shows too. So like the last show I played, which was like a few days ago in Rockland, Massachusetts, that was a festival. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just make internet content out of this and use that to promote my album. Or the last big tour I wanted to be like a digital guide to what it's like being on a national tour when you did it yourself. Because a lot of times we socialize tour with like famous musicians, but a lot of us don't know that like to become famous, you have to be a not famous touring musician. You don't just pop out and start touring as a famous person. You have to, pay your dues. So yeah,
That's
I think I
it's
answered the question. So.
yeah, it's funny that you mentioned like how's a digital guide because me like knowing you on a personal level, I see your post and I haven't done it yet, but I would like screenshot your post with the intention of like reposting them here as like internet content like hey, this is
Yeah.
what this is what musicians are saying and or like this is like really interesting point. Um all right. So speaking of goals, I know your goal was to get 1,000 Spotify followers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the exact story, but I remember us talking earlier about how you flipped a sort of rejection into email into getting followers.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. It wasn't a rejection email. It was more of a call out post. So Submit Hub is a platform that musicians underground and sign use to connect to platforms like blogs, playlists, and things like that. And someone basically promoted Show Friends with blackface, and I screenshotted it and I shared it with Submit Hub, and then the creator came after me. And what he didn't realize is, even though he was being offensive towards me, more people started supporting me. Now, my goal at the time was just to speak against the injustice, but it also led me to getting more listeners. And I'm not one of those people that's like, I'll do anything to get listeners. Like, I don't want to be racially offended just for the fact of being heard, but that is what happened as the result of the outcome. So, yeah.
Like, what made him think that that was okay?
To this day, I don't know. It was a younger creator. Person claimed to be 25. I'm pretty sure the person was like 18 or 19 or 20 or something like that. And I don't know. I mean, yeah, they're from a different country, but they tried to say like racism doesn't exist in Mexico, which, a quick Google shows that that's not true because racism definitely exists in Mexico.
Very much so.
There's the whole light skin versus dark skin Mexicans and things like that. We don't want to go down that tangent, but it seemed just very odd to me. And I definitely believe that in internet culture, actually, a friend of mine sent me a text earlier today that there's this clash in internet content creation between like artists, musicians, genuine. Well, I don't even want to call them genuine, but content creators, like the people that are neither musician or artist, but they call themselves content creators. There's this clash between, am I creating art for me and the hope that others connect to it? And am I creating art for shock value so I can appeal an algorithm so eventually I get those rewards, such as like the sponsorships, the donations, and things like that? And, judging by this person's other content, I think that they were just looking to make fun of a black person that made rock music. But keep in mind, the other loophole I should probably share is Submit Hub has this program where you pay like 5, 10, 20, even 300. In this case, I paid like $15. And, influencers match your songs. You don't choose the influencer chooses your song. So to put this into even further context, I just wanted someone to pick up my song and say something about it. And they chose to be racist, thinking they were promoting me. So yeah, it was weird. It's
That's
definitely weird.
that's crazy. I mean, like, so I I know that struggle on like kind of both sides of it. I have a project of my own
Mm-hmm.
called The Archivist, and between doing this and like I have other YouTube channel and stuff, finding that balance between like between artists and like knowing like the value of art and why it's there and why I'm doing things on that nature versus the having the like almost insistence on like having to use like platforms like TikTok and YouTube to like get your name out, but without like being like cheesy or like or over the top or just going for that shock value. It's kind of it's a difficult line to navigate. Like, how
Mhm.
do you find yourself doing that? Like, especially like as far as like social media goes and like the TikToks and the influencer world, because like they're not necessarily the influencers aren't necessarily like you said, they're not artists. They're like people who get famous for being just for the sake of being famous in a way.
Yeah, and it's I call it a new level of narcissism because like you have these people that they're not comedians, they're not artists, they're not musicians, they're not actors, they're not educators. Uh, they just exist in the hopes for platform, in hopes for a platform that doesn't really provide anything. And I know for myself as a musician or a creative person, there are times that like I might seemingly delve away and like for a little brief period I was posting comedy skits about DIY culture on TikTok and YouTube. Like I have a how to book a DIY show and it's satire, but like that's not me trying to get famous or blow up. That's me being funny and just wanting to put something on YouTube just because like that I think that video has like 100 views. If that video got 200,000 views, like a week from now, I mean, probably not going to happen. I wouldn't be motivated by those views. So, like, younger in me, it was like, I have to do everything to get the attention. And then when I realized I was getting attention by doing what's natural to me, I said, okay, I don't have to create on the basis and necessity of appeasing to people or what I think appeases to people, but I can create on what I enjoy and also based on how I enjoy connecting with others without sacrificing who I am. Now, that doesn't mean I don't care or like I'm of the punk variety of like, you know, notoriety is capitalistic. Like, I'm not one of those people, but I'm really always about comfort over everything because, like, whether you're working a day job, don't work a day job that you're not comfortable with. Don't befriend people you're not comfortable with. Don't do music if you're not exactly comfortable with it. That's kind of like my perspective on creating on the internet. So like, yeah, you have these tools that have all these rules like TikTok, they say post 3 times a day. I don't post 3 times a day. There's some days I will post 9 times a day and not post again for 2 weeks. And there's times, and that's not because of anxiety, it's about comfort, you know? Same with Instagram. Like I might go on a 2 to 3 week binging era, and it might be promotion related or it might be creatively related. But again, it's all about comfort. Like this song DIY or Die. I didn't do booty shorts and um, these cut up shirts for attention. I did it because I wanted a certain demographic of people to rock merch that promotes independent culture. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like I create by being intentional and attaching meaning to it, but it doesn't mean that I'm better or worse than other people. It just means for me that I think it might give you a lot less stress when you create without thinking about a result that you can't control. Like it's good to be results driven, but also think about what you can't control. Because like once you accept what you can't control, a lot more things become more meaningful to you. So yeah.
So in your mind, what are those things that you're for sure like I'm in control of this and this is the only or the best things that I can do as a musician to like further my career or just my reach or just to get the name out there.
Certainly. So like I'm in control of reaching out to people to book me a show, but I'm not in control of whether they say yes or not. But I have noticed that the more that I knock on doors, the more people come out, because something that I think a lot of us think is if that venue doesn't work out, then I'm doomed to ever play that venue. Well, insider information, most people that work at venues, they're only working there for 2 to 3 months. So, like, if you gig somewhere on a January, by the time you play there in July, that whole venue has a completely new staff, might even have a new owner, might not even exist. So it's just kind of like, so like venues might not exist, you know? So that's the first thing with shows and like things you can control is like the gift of being persistent and consistent will get you into a venue. Same with house shows. Like, don't take it personal that a house might not invite you to play because that house might only be able to have so many bands. So like go on to the next house or the next space, right? Coffee shops, etc. Another thing you can control. You can't control what people think of your first album or your second album, but you can control being a better musician. So always ask yourself, like, what did I do in the last album that wasn't that great that I can make better in the next album? And if not, it's album, think about it single to single or EP to EP or collab to collab. And also remember the gift of longevity because there's going to also be periods where you don't know what to say, but you have a catalog where you didn't promote it enough. To quote Tyler, the creator of all people, a lot of people in this generation are posting a song or doing the whole, haven't been on Instagram in a while, but I have been hiking in the mountains. Unless you are world known, there is always something you can do to promote yourself, and that is something you can control. So it's almost like no matter how many different ways you curate it and post it and things like that, you can keep going and have more people see you. And then once you are seen, people could do that back research and go, wow, this person really tried being funny or being good at music or good at good at making art. Never control how people think about you. And that doesn't mean don't promote yourself, don't connect with other people. What it means is stay true to your word, but don't take it personal when you don't get the results desired, because sometimes it doesn't work immediately. Sometimes it takes a journey or it takes a village.
Speaking of comfort, what's it like adjusting to a new music scene? Because like obviously I met you in Philly and you were part of this scene and you recently moved away up to Massachusetts. Are there any like just general things that you've noticed between music scenes, or is there anything in specific, anything in particular going from Philly to Massachusetts or vice versa? Like how's that adjustment for you?
So I can definitely say that the adjustment here is mostly like there's a different level of pride. Like in Philly, there's like a competitive but edgy pride that you can fall in love with, where people are like, you know, gritty, not in the hockey way, but like they're very grungy about what they do. Like, hey, this basement is called Ghastly's Basement, and we love it here. But the basement will just be very dirty, but all the bands play there, and somehow we tolerate it. You know, like that's like funny but beautiful at the same time. You know what I mean? Whereas like here, what I'm learning is there's a strong sense of community driven localism. And what I mean by that is like everyone's trying to create something, but they're not trying to take away from anybody. And if anything, they're trying to find what's the best way to help someone from a creative perspective. And I mean everybody in the best way I know. Like I know it's only been 2 months, but like I went to like 15 to 20 different restaurants and I asked them, hey, can I post up a flyer of my band? It's not promoting anything, it's just promoting myself. And I'm a new musician around here. And they were like, sure, we'll play your music in the store. You can't really do that in Philly because if you walk in, they're going to look at you like, dang, another musician? Nah, have a nice day. Unless it's an actual event. you know, you can promote the flyer, but how long it's going to stay there is a whole other story. But like, you know, it might be less people, but it's not as less as Philly as you might think, because like the whole entire area is about 2.5 million, and I'm pretty sure Philly's got like 2.5 million too. It's just spread differently, because I'm in the Western Mass Valley area around Springfield and Hampden County, and that area, I'm pretty sure with all the towns considering, it's about the same amount as Philly, but the localism is just so strong. Like you'll meet people that throw parties and all the food is from some small business, you know? So I guess that's a big thing that I'm learning. The open mics here, like in Mass, are very community driven. And a lot of the open mics in Philly, not all of them, there are good ones. Shout out Great Room. Great Room's a very good open mic. Shout out the, I can't think of the name of the place, but the one that Kevin McCall hosts. That's another good one. But you also have your World Cafe Live open mic where it's a competition. You know, like open mic shouldn't be a competition. If you want to do a competition, call it a rap battle. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just noticing a lot of that in terms of the differences. But like, just as a touring artist, like DIY is not the same everywhere. Like, there's differences, but it's the same in the sense that like, don't book the touring band last because people are gonna leave. That happens everywhere. Don't be a dick. You know, being a kind person always takes you a long way, no matter where you are. You never know who you might meet and they'll be able to help you later. Like those things are always true, but I could definitely say that it's refreshing to like challenge myself again, because just being a Philly native as well as a member of the Philadelphia scene, for me, a big reason why I had to leave was kind of I just felt like I did it all almost. Like I had been on multiple radio stations, I had done like radio shows. Only things I didn't do was play like the Wells Fargo Center and Union Transfer and Exponential Fest. And like, I don't necessarily have to stay in Philly to do those things. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, so I have a couple of things that I could pick out of there, like
hmm
the fact that you've been touring, like what keeps you doing open mics, like I mean, like for me, and you know what, and how do you do them consistently, and I'm asking that on a personal like struggle kind of thing. Like I know I should probably start doing some, but I'm just like, where do I find the time, like where do I find the places,
Sure. So, the reason why I do them is because I look at it like this. I know that I've done this a long time, and there's even times I get trapped in the whole I should be bigger than I am. Where's my pitchfork review, et cetera, et cetera. Where's my Wikipedia page? I do get caught in that. I'm not gonna lie, I do. But I also remember I haven't sung to everyone I could sing to. I haven't mastered my craft, and there's always a way to be better. So I have to ask myself, between those shows, between those tours, between those recording sessions, where do I give myself a place where I could practice in front of people, but it's not for money or social media likes, it's for practice. How could I practice my banner?
it's almost
An
like
open mic.
it's
Yeah.
almost like how a comedian approaches it.
Exactly. I
And
learned this from Hannibal Buress and Dave Chappelle. I was like, those are two dudes, very different political beliefs, that despite how famous they are, they still go to open mics. And I said to myself, no matter where I am as a musician, I could do that. Now, the question, how do I find them? Openmics.org. And it's Mike spelled Mikes, and it's just like a directory of U.S. and Canada, sometimes Europe, of just open mics all over uh, the world. And also, you use Do DIY. Sometimes they list open mics, and just also you could just Google them. You know, like this area, I'm still learning about a lot of the open mics. I joined Western Mass Music Community, and I haven't been going to as most of them because, like, hashtag I just started a job, hashtag finding an apartment. But
Hashtag
once
adult
I'm
life.
like, yeah, yeah, once I'm like fully settled, I'm probably gonna go a lot. Like, I have a show in this area called Turner's Falls. I found it one of my local openers by playing an open mic, and this kid Matt Emmer is so good, and they just played their first venue show ever. But like, if you hear their music, you'd be like, this person's been playing forever. But it's just like cool to practice your craft and meet people that aren't necessarily part of a scene, but they're part of just music. So it's pretty cool to do that.
Yeah. So the I met you playing acoustic, and
Yeah.
the songs that I'm hearing all sound like, electric full band stuff.
Hmm.
How do you navigate having that, like, as a kind of a solo artist, having all of the things kind of representing you online being like electric, and like I find myself in a position where I want to have a full band but I have to play acoustic a lot. um
True, true.
how do you make sure that that translates well and that like you get the point across?
So in terms of the translation, that really comes with the fact that I do a big deal of the composition and arrangement. Like, I don't play all of the instruments, but I get friends to do it with me. So it all starts with the guitar. Well, not all, because I've written songs with banjo and ukulele, et cetera, et cetera. But it all starts with me. So that's how I'm able to translate it from full band to me. But in terms of, like, even though you didn't ask this, like, why do I remain recording full band despite being a solo artist? Well, this started as a full band project, and I have had people backing me, but if I think about, like, what's my intended experience with songs I've written, it is full band. It's just harder to do when you're running your own project, because especially as a working musician, because, like, you're working with people that also need a budget in the same way that you're being budgeted. So while I do have friends that will tour with me or play shows and songs with me time to time, if God's willing, I would love to have like a full touring band that's about 5, 6 deep, with like maybe even 7 with strings and stuff like that. So
Nice. um so we got about 8 minutes left, so there's a couple things I want to touch on, so I'm just gonna
sure,
fire them out at you.
okay,
One, tell us a little bit about the festival you just played, Together Fest.
for sure,
Two, I wanted to go into your music videos a little bit. I watched the Show Friends video, and I didn't get a
okay,
chance to watch Caffeine yet. But uh,
okay.
are you planning a video for the new release? And you
I am.
mentioned street teaming, and I wanna dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. So, Together Fest was organized and run by Together Records, which is run by Justin Arena, who's a fellow touring buddy of mine who lives in Massachusetts. We have been touring the same circuits for years, and we just met this year. Like, very, very nice human, very wholesome. Definitely would recommend you interviewing them. Um, so Justin was like, since you're newly to Massachusetts, I want to adopt you. I was like, okay, Justin. And they've helped me. I mean, they pressed my crop tops, they're pressing my upcoming beauty shorts. And I used to work with Matt down in Philly, who prints a lot of shirts, and Matt has Do It Now t-shirts, so shout out to them. And then Justin's partner Joelle is a film student in Boston, and I'm going to go to Boston and shoot a music video for DIY or Die, so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. And the festival was great. It was a 3-day festival. I played on day 2. I opened it up. There was about 50, 60 people there. People were masked, and it was also outdoors as well as indoors. I played indoors, and I played in a print shop. It was cool, and I signed an album, by someone named Emily. Emily was a very nice person, and they told me a bunch of places to play. and said, I hope you come back to the South Shore, which I will, because South Shore is like a part of Massachusetts that's outside of Boston by about an hour, give or take a little. So it was really cool. So, yeah.
Nice.
What were your other two questions? I forgot.
Well, you answered two of them. Street teaming. All right, because I like that's kind of kicking it old school, and I'm kind of curious how that works in 2022.
Yeah. So like, yeah, we use social media, and social media can be very helpful. Like, I went from 945 to I think I'm at 1041 followers because of the internet, but I put that in quotes because I also was street teaming my flyers, which linked to my Spotify and other links while that was happening. A lot of people like think like you only have to build up your TikTok, you only have to build up your Twitter to get a following, but there's this thing that happens. It hasn't happened to me, but I've watched it happen to other people where you could get 100,000 followers, right? And you're so attached to those followers. And then once you start releasing music, you realize only 50 of those people were actually listening to you because those followers weren't following you because of your music. They were following you because of what you were putting out on the internet, which had nothing to do with your music, right?
Right.
Or they go, I have 1,000 listens on a song. I've made it. And then they play a show in somewhere they've never been. And you realize those people that came to your show or didn't come to your show weren't the 1,000 people going. So like the internet is a good tool. The internet does help you. But at the end of the day, it's important to street team because people can still discover you other different ways, whether that be by handing out flyers, handing out tapes. A lot of great musicians of all genres in the 90s did that. And I think we get caught up in the fact that because Instagram exists, we can't do that. But the reality is you can. It might be received differently, but there's still there's still hope. So that's why I still do it.
All right. That's a great insight. It's almost like that 1000 true fans mantra,
Yeah.
Your followers versus true fans are two completely different things.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, we're winding down now, and I really want to thank you for joining me
Sure.
here on Beyond the Static. Before you go, let everyone know where they can find you, find your music, all the socials and all of those things.
Surely. You can find me on all the socials under A Day Without Love. YouTube, A Day Without Love. Instagram, A Day Without Love. TikTok, A Day Without Love Band. Spotify, A Day Without Love. Bandcamp, A Day Without Love. Venmo, A Day Without Love. It's all A Day Without Love. And this is really great talking to you about music, self-care, and my upcoming tunes. So thank you for sharing. So, yeah.
Thanks for having me. Well,
right.
Thanks for joining me. That's gonna probably make it on TikTok.
Okay, for sure.
Can I ask you a quick question? Let's see, maybe I can edit it in. Where did the name A Day Without Love come from?
Certainly. So the name was originally a poem, and was about a spousal abuse incident I saw in college that I stopped, and I wrote a poem about it. And then I revived the name from a time that I was homeless due to Hurricane Sandy. I was a homeless grad student, and A Day Without Love wasn't about that initial incident. It was more about rising above hard situations. So while the name is sad, it's really kind of a reminder of the day that you lose yourself or you lose love is the day that things get harder. So keep loving yourself, keep loving others. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
Thank you. Anytime.